Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. In today's video, we will be discussing the Melffy archetype. Now, you might be looking at your screen and thinking, oh, well, this isn't just Melffy cards, there's a bunch of other shit in here as well. And you would be correct. And there's many different reasons for that. One of which is that the Melffy cards just don't do a ton by themselves, but they are a fun addition to a bunch of other decks. You can also play this in more of a control variant where you're using cards like Rescue Cat and Obedience Schooled as like your crutches for the deck, and then you're also supplementing power for trap cards like Solemn Strike, Ice Dragon's Prison, Torrential Tribute, which is really nice for a point that I'll get to in a minute here once we go through the deck list. So there's many different ways you can play this deck. You can definitely play it more pure, you can definitely play it more control, you can play it with Tri-Brigade, you can play it with just Dogmatica, you can really just kind of play with, whatever way you feel like. And I know I've kind of talked to a couple people about this, and I've made some posts to the Melffy Yu-Gi-Oh page to discuss the deck to kind of get a better handle on it. And in one of my posts, I did kind of have a back and forth with some guy where I was kind of shit-talking the Tri-Brigade cards. I don't think all the Tri-Brigade cards are bad. I think Cuteness, which is the level 2 Earth Beast, is the best one, at least in this deck, because it is a level 2 Earth Beast that you can special summon from your hand by discarding a Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monster. But the other ones, they're usable in this deck because, if you don't open your one copy of Nerval, you do get to Cuteness, which is, a playmaker. It gets you your Link monsters out of your extra deck. It gives you a level 2 to overlay with, if you need to normal summon one of your cards. It does a lot, and it adds a little bit of consistency that the deck lacks in its pure form. So it is like 11:13 p.m. right now when I'm making this video, so if I missed something, my apologies, but I've been on this deck for like the last 2.5 weeks-ish. I really love it. I've never been a sucker for like that kind of cute aesthetic that some decks bring to the game. Some decks kind of maybe like Dragon Maids, which have some level of competitive viability at this point. I'm sure there's other things that I'm missing, but decks that just kind of have that cute factor but don't really do a lot. Never really kind of attracted me to play them. But the Melffy cards are interesting in a way where they all have an effect. It's kind of like a dual effect. On the end phase, you can just summon them from your hand, special summon them from your hand, in attack or defense position. And when your opponent's monster is normal or special summoned, or if they are targeted for an attack by your opponent, they can activate their effects. Now, there's a couple other ones. I think there's like Foxy and what is the other one? Pony, I think, is another one. One of those summons a card from your hand, which is a good way to get Kalantosa out of your hand, which is kind of one of your bricks. And I can't remember what the other one does off the top of my head. But they're just a little underwhelming. I'll see some people play like one copy of Pony or one copy of the Fox, and I don't think it's terrible, but it's just not something that you really want to open. It's more something you would search, and I'm really trying to cut down on the bricks because the deck already lacks a little bit of consistency, which is why you see me playing so many consistency cards. So after we get through the deck profile, I do have a couple videos I would like to show you. It's been really weird lately on EDO Pro. I've run into a lot of just kind of like tier 2 rogue decks on the, just kind of when I load into a game. It's just generally what I get. So you'll see a little bit of that. I think you'll see a duel from Heroes. You'll see a duel from Mech Knights, which is interesting. And then I'm going to throw in like a couple little salty duels because some people, when you just answer their cards, they quit regardless of what your deck is. So that's why deck building is so important, because if you have answers to just kind of like weird crutches that some decks have, like Mystic Mine and whatnot, so it just eliminates your opponent's strategy and kind of their ability to play. So enough rambling, let's go ahead and jump into the deck list here. We have 3 copies of Nibiru, stable hand trap in this format. Every deck just vomits monsters on the board. 1 copy of Fleur-de-Lis because it is your quote-unquote brick for the Dogmatica cards. You have 3 Tri-Brigade Fractar. Once again, you discard this card from your hand, send a Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monster from your deck to the graveyard. You send Nerval. When Nerval is sent to the graveyard, it searches one of these 2. Normally you're searching Keras here, but you can search this if you already have a copy of this, just so you can load more cards in the graveyard on your next turn. Then we have 2 copies of Ecclesia. I didn't want to play 3 because sometimes you lock yourself into Beast using Obedience Schooled and then you just normal summon this card. It is searchable off of Nadir's Servant. It's just kind of something that if I was making the deck at 40, I felt comfortable cutting one of this card. I really haven't missed the third copy, but if you want to play 3 and play 41 cards, or, you know, kind of bump it up maybe 42 cards and play the extra copy of Caddy, be my guest. It's not going to hurt that much. Then we have 3 copies of Rescue Cat. This card is your titular, just summon 2 beast monsters from your deck. You could play a card like, I can't think of the name, it's like some mole card. It's a level 3 Earth Tuner, and then make a Nat Beast off of Cat. The mole does net you a draw when it's sent to the graveyard, when it's used for a synchro material. It's just something I didn't really think of playing. Extra deck is already really tight. I didn't want to put in more kind of like, I don't want to say win more cards, but just cards that don't always do a ton, you know, against your opponent. Now, if you're talking about meta decks, you know, that you're playing against, I can see why you would want to play it, because against like Diatron, it is pretty much an auto win because your opponent just can't fusion summon, or not fusion summon, ritual summon, you know, through their spell card effects. So I can see why you would play it, but me personally, I'm not currently on that right now. As you can tell, my opinions do change quite often because I learn as I go, you know, with my interactions with people and through dueling. So who knows? I might change my opinion on playing the Naturia Beast combo in the future. So then we have 3 Ash Blossom, just a generically good hand trap. 2 Kyrus because it's searchable. If you guys didn't catch any of my previous videos where I've talked about the Tri-Brigade cards, this just lets you banish any number of Beast Warrior, Wing Beast monsters from your graveyard and cheat out a link based on the number that you banished. So you can banish 4, summon this guy. You can banish 3, summon this one. You can banish 2, summon any of your Beast Warrior, Wing Beast monsters from your extra deck, including Mrs. Radiant and their link too. So very, very good. Then we have 3 copies of Melffy Puppy. This is the one that bounces itself and then special summons a beast from your deck. So most of the time, it's your interruption to bring out Kalantosa, because when Kalantosa is summoned by the effect of a beast monster, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy that card. Really good interruption. You know, basically, as long as your opponent's still summoning monsters, you can kind of pick and choose when you want to get out Kalantosa. You know, but just learn the choke points of all the meta decks and, you know, maybe some rogue strategies, and you'll know, you know, when the pop will be needed. Then we have 2 copies of Caddy. I would definitely consider playing 3 copies of Caddy, but I wanted to play Called by the Grave, and Caddy is searchable. Puppy can get out Caddy, Caddy can't get out Puppy, so I think the ratio of 3 to 2 is not terrible. I know I'll probably be lampooned pretty hard for not playing 3 copies of this, but just for keeping the deck at 40 and making it do what I want it to do, I think 2 copies is fine. Basically, this just bounces itself, kind of like how Puppy does, and then searches any of your Beast cards. So it is really good, and it is live on your first turn if you just pass and have it in hand. But like I said earlier, it is searchable. I just don't feel like 3 copies is mandatory. Then we have the 1 Nerve Ball, because technically it is your Tri-Brigade brick. You know, once it's into the graveyard, you just search one of your Tri-Brigade cards. We have 3 copies of Nadir's Servant, just because it searches any of your Dogmatica monsters. And you could also send Cuteness to kind of pick and choose what you want to pop, or you can send this and just add on the end phase. You guys know what this card does. Then we have 3 copies of one of the most broken cards in the game. If you're just looking at the text alone, it is insane. If you control no monsters, you can special summon 3 level 2 or lower Beast effect monsters with different names from your deck, but their effects are negated, and also they are destroyed during the end phase. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except beast monsters. So you can activate this, still normal summon your Ecclesia, and do your plays that way. So it's, I don't know, man. I'm looking at this card and I'm seeing a lack of text that a lot of modern day Yu-Gi-Oh cards have, and that would be a once per turn clause. Your opponent ashes this, you slam your deck on the table and play another copy. You're still getting your 3 beast monsters out, and you're still going +1 at the end of the turn. It is absolutely insane. This card not having a once per turn clause on it is bonkers. I can't begin to describe how many cards in today's current meta that would just be even more ridiculous than they already are if they didn't have a once per turn clause. I mean, I'm sure you can just sit here and imagine, run through a list of like 500 meta cards right now that would just be insanely cracked if they didn't have a once per turn clause, and that's what you get with this card. So if you want an excuse to play a fun, cute deck, this card should be the exact reason why you would play this. It is insane. Then we have 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. I didn't really want to play any other form of back row removal besides this. Eldritch is really big right now, and this answers Conquistador, which kind of hurts your deck a little bit. It also hits the Haquero, which isn't too terrible. You know, you don't really struggle with your banishing that much. And then you also can hit cards like Cursed Eldland. You could hit, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Altergeist had a top in the last LCS, so you know you might be seeing cards like Protocol and Spoofing, and you could chain this card to it to effectively just make it null and void. Cyclone's always just been a good card. You see it in the side deck a lot. You know, there's room in the main deck for it. These could also, on the flip side, be 10 keys to search your Tri-Brigade plays, but I feel like I was seeing them enough. You know, you're playing 3 different engines in a deck. It's kind of like in Magic if you're playing like a tricolor deck or something like that. You're always going to see enough of one engine to make the deck, you know, work just fine. Then we have one Called by the Grave because you really want your Obedience Schooled and you really want your Rescue Cat to resolve. This is also really good against Diatron because if they use the Diatron monster's effect in the graveyard to tribute from hand for cost or from field, you just hit the one they're activating and then it fizzles, so they've effectively gone -2, which is really nice. So it's basically hand trap proof. You can hit Golden Lords in the graveyard, turn them off for a turn. It has so much utility. I really wish this was still at 3. In my banlist prediction video, I was thinking this could have come back to 3, but I guess Konami's still banking on being able to push Crossout Designator when it comes out, that they're going to keep this at 1 just to kind of push sales in the future. Then we have 1 copy of Melffy Hide and Seek. This is your Pot of Avarice. You shuffle 3 beast monsters with different names in your graveyard into the deck, then you draw 1 card. If your opponent DD Crow's 1, Haquero's 1, removes one of the other card targets from graveyard, you still do resolve this because it doesn't say shuffle those targets. It just says shuffle them into the deck. So it won't fizzle if any of those targets are removed. Just keep that in mind. And what makes this card even kind of more cracked than just having like a reasonable Pot of Avarice every turn is the fact that it is destruction protection. So the first time each beast monster you control will be destroyed by card effect each turn, it is not destroyed. So that's when I was talking about Torrential Tribute being played in more of a control version of this deck. If you have your beast monsters on the field and just use Torrential Tribute, you mitigate the downside of Torrential Tribute, which would be having your monsters destroyed as well. It's basically at that point just a chainable board wipe to any of your opponent's summons. So this card is just pretty much insane for the archetype, especially since it's searchable off of one of their extra deck monsters, which we'll get into shortly. Then we have 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just your general negate, and a Dogmatica Punishment, just 1 copy. Pretty standard in most engines that people use Dogmatica in. So, moving on to the extra deck here, we have the Titaniclad, the Ash Dragon, 1 Elder Entity Detest, just your standard package if you're playing the Dogmatica cards. You have 1 AA Zeus, 1 number 29 Mannequin Cat. This card is interesting. I should probably be side decking the Pankratops here. I could probably side out the Red Reboot, maybe the Feather Duster, or maybe 1 copy of Anti-Spell. I'm not quite sure yet. There's still a lot of work to do on the extra deck to put Pankratops in. But basically what this does is once per turn you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 monster to your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your opponent's field. If a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field where you control this monster, except during the damage step, you can take 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, or target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, special summon 1 monster with the same type or attribute from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn. So what you can do in the Zoo Mirror, let them summon a Zoo monster from their graveyard, preferably not Thoroughblade because they can still trigger Thoroughblade off this card summon, and then you just get to summon a Pankratops from free from your deck, which is just kind of nuts. So it has its utility. If I were to take out anything in the extra deck to put, I don't know, really maybe like a Phoenix or a Unicorn in, it would probably be Mannequin Cat. Then we play 1 Joyous Melffys. This card, basically, you can detach 1 material from it. Melffy monsters can attack directly this turn. So basically, it's 2k to your opponent's face. It has the exact same purpose as Zodiac Borbo, where it attacks directly, then you can overlay into AA Zeus. But it also has a secondary effect, which is really nice. During your opponent's turn, this is a quick effect, you can target 1 Beast Exceeds monster you control, even this card, return that monster to the extra deck, then you can special summon level 2 or lower beast monsters from your graveyard up to the number of material that monster had. So you can actually target him if he has 2 materials, summon 2 materials back. So if he was made with maybe Kalantosa, or you have a Kalantosa engraved, this acts as another form of interruption because since it's a beast monster and it's summoning Kalantosa, Kalantosa gets the effect to pop a card in your opponent's field. really neat interaction to kind of look forward to. You know, if you're trying to think of your plays, you know, maybe you want more interruption, maybe you have like a dead Kalantosa on field, and you wish you could make a live again on your opponent's turn. Consider just overlaying into this, if anything, just to put 2 bodies on board, and one of them is a pop. So, very nice. Good at 1, you can recycle it using the continuous spell. Then we play 1 copy of Sky Cavalry. I pretty much only played this card as an out to like Towers-esque monsters. It answers Megaclops, answers Dragoons, you know, what more could you ask for? Then we play 1 copy of Ronin Raccoon Sandayu. This card basically just cheats out a token that copies the highest attack on the field. So it could be 3,000, or it could be 3,000, or if this card uses a Link 3, it could be 5,300. It's kind of insane. Also, while this card is on the field and there's another beast monster, this card cannot be targeted by card effect, or it cannot be destroyed by card effect or by battle, excuse me. So really nice kind of late game if you're stalling and you just want to keep generating tokens. Just make sure you have another beast on field to protect them. Then we get into probably the best extra deck card. We have Melffy of the Forest. This is your rota for all of the Melffy cards. You can detach 1 material from this card, add 1 Melffy card from your deck to your hand. And its secondary effect here, which if you notice, most of the Melffy cards have secondary effects. If a face-up, or if another face-up Melffy monster you control returns to your hand, except during the damage step, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. It cannot attack. Also, its effects are negated while it is face-up on the field, and you can only use each effect of Melffy of the Forest once per turn. So, if this is on the field and you searched Puppy with it, Puppy can bounce itself to summon another card. This can negate it, so like let's say you summon Caddy. This can negate a monster on the field, and then if they keep pushing, Caddy bounces itself back to hand, adds maybe like Rescue Cat or Karis. You know, there's just a lot of fun plays to do with this deck. Really cute, really cheeky, especially if your opponent just doesn't read the card. Then we play 1 copy of, I believe this is Ominous Omen. You can cheat this out with Karis. It is a non-target banish, and when a Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monster is special summoned to your field, you can banish 1 card on the field also. So if this is on the field and you have Puppy, Puppy bounces, summons, you can get a Kalantosa pop, and you can also get a Omen banish. Very nice. Then we have Access Code Talker. I play this because I play the Link 3 Tri-Brigade monster. Karis can go into this, and then you can use Karis and this to go into Access Code Talker to get 3 pops. It's just really nice to kind of have that utility. I don't want to say that I run into it too often, but I mean, you know, you have darks and, you know, an earth and a fire, so there's the potential to get multiple pops in a single turn, depending on the game state. This is basically just used to ladder climb into Access Code Talker. This could be Unicorn if I wanted to, but since this can be cheated out by Karis, there's really no other substitute for it. Then we have the Baron Blossom. This lets you special summon a beast monster from your hand, or beast warrior, or winged beast monster from your hand. So it lets you kind of cheat out another copy of Rescue Cat if you've already utilized your normal summon. And it also lets you, quote unquote, kind of fix your hand a little bit. When it's sent to the graveyard, you draw a card and just put a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. Both effects are once per turn. Then we have Mrs. Radiant. It's your generic Link 2 that also boosts the attack of all Earth monsters by 500 and their defense. It also decreases the attack of Wind monsters by 400 attack and defense. Pretty cool. Then we play the 1 mandatory copy of Salamon Great Almirage. This is one of the reasons why I didn't want to play the Tri-Brigade engine, but you have to play it in case you have to normal summon your Nerval to get your play started. So it's literally the only reason you play this. And then on to the side deck here, we have 3 copies of Anti-Spell and 1 copy of Order for spell-based decks and ritual-based decks. We have 1 copy of Red Reboot, so we can Zeus our opponent against trap decks. We have Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster for the exact same reason. Then we have Droll and Lockbird because every deck in the meta currently searches, and then we play 3 copies of Skullmeister because everything in the meta activates in the grave for the most part. So these are great to side in. I think for the most part, this side deck is pretty thorough. You know, change it up to whatever suits your locals or whatever you plan on playing. And yeah, I think that's about it for this. So let's go ahead and jump right into the duels. Alright, starting off here, we have our Game 1 against Heroes. Our opponent has opened up Vision Hero Ferris, Called by the Grave, Forbidden Droplets, Dark Calling, and Liquid Soldier. His hand does not look that great. Unfortunately, for us, a little bit better. We opened up Fractar, and Infinite Impermanence, Melffy Puppy, Cosmic Cyclone, and Disciples of the Nadir. We opened up 1 card starters of each of our engines. How nice! So, Looks like our opponent has passed us, or we're starting, I believe. So we use Fractar to send Nervball to summon or search Karis. Then we use the effect of our Nadir Servant to send a copy of Titaniclad to search Ecclesia normal summon to search the trap. In phase, Titaniclad will search our copy of Fleur-de-Lis, and then we summon Puppy from our hand and pass with 3 set cards, Melffy Puppy, Ecclesia, Karis in hand, and Fleur-de-Lis in hand as well. Our opponent rips the E-Emergency Call. How lucky for him. Without this hand is actually kind of cheeks. So he goes Elemental Hero Stratos, and we chain Puppy. Puppy summon Caddy. I figured the single interruption here with what we have in the back row wasn't really worth popping anything on his field. So we go ahead and just let that go through, summon Caddy, so we're going to get our search, and then we can just rely on our back row and the Fleur-de-Lis here to kind of control our opponent. So summons Ferris here by discarding Shadow Mist. Ferris and Shadow Mist trigger. I trigger Caddy to bounce Caddy to hand and search Rescue Cat. Our opponent searches, and then equips the increase. We Cosmic Cyclone the increase when he tributes for cost, so it fizzles. He Dark Callings here, which I think is interesting, and I figured that his hand must not be that great if he's making a play like this, so what I decided to do is the following. I Fleur-de-Lis negate, he enters the battle phase, I Dogmatic of Punishment, popping that, and then sending the Tis, and the Tis popping the copy of Malicious Bane, and my opponent sets 2 and passes. We rip the Infib here, just go to swing. Fleur-de-Lis triggers, adding 500 to all the Dogmatic monsters on the field, putting our opponent down to 3,000. We then summon Puppy, and then summon Caddy on the end phase. Looping resources here is very nice. Our opponent summons his Liquid Soldier, targets his Stratos. We do the noble thing and infinite impermanence our opponent when he has a card in the Infib column. He then chains, let's see, Mask Change here, getting him, I think it's Acid? Yeah, so Acid triggers, then Stratos triggers. We're going to lose our back row anyway, so we chain our monsters and then chain the Infib, negating the Stratos. We summon Kalantosa from Puppy. We add Karis. I think we added Karis, or we may have added, I think I added Kalantosa here because I could normal summon this in the next turn, had I not used Punishment. I think that, was Punishment last turn? No, Punishment was the last turn. I can normal summon any of these cards, go into the Link to Tri-Brigade, and then summon this from hand from a pop. I really didn't feel like I needed to with these on the field, but we'll continue. So I pop the big one, and then he surrenders. Alrighty. Game 2 here, and it looks like our opponent's going first. He leads up with E-Call, and I Ash it because I can't imagine a better card to Ash when I have 2 Infib in hand. He normal summons his copy of Vision Hero Vion, and it is met with our other copy of Infinite Impermanence, and then he sets 1 card and passes. I top deck Nadir Servant, use Fractar effect, and it gets Ashed. Very fair. Then we use our Nadir Servant. Unfortunately for him, I would have rather hit the Nadir rather than the Fractar in his case. So we go ahead and pop the Mystery back row, summoning Ecclesia. Ecclesia searches us Dragma Punishment or Dogmatic of Punishment. We swing over his copy of Vion, and at this point, we figured our opponent's 1 card in hand isn't that great, so we could just kind of play it safe. We didn't need to search the, or we didn't need to send Titaniclad here to get the full cycle search. I just really wanted to bait out the back row to see what it was, because it could have been an Impermanence, which I think it turned out it ended up being, and I didn't want Ecclesia losing out to the Impermanence here, so I think that was a fair play. Our opponent top decks a Called by the Grave. Not super terrible, so we hit him with Elemental Hero Liquid, and then we chain Infinite Impermanence to our Puppy effect on summon. Kalantosa is summoned, the Liquid Soldier gets negated, Kalantosa pops the Liquid Soldier, he sets 1 and passes. Oh, we draw Rescue Cat, how nice. We use Rescue Cat effect, and of course it gets hit by the 1 called by. Tragic as always. So we go to battle phase and swing for 15, our opponent is still top decking, and we are starting to accrue advantage with our Melffy cards. Our opponent draws Judgment. Wow, a little late. We go into Mrs. Radiant, it gets hit by the Solemn Judgment. Mrs. Radiant effect triggers in the grave when it is destroyed by battle or card effects. I can target 1 monster, or 1 earth monster in my graveyard and add it to my hand. I believe I add Puppy here if I'm not mistaken. Yep, we add Puppy, normal summon our Rescue Cat, and I think at this point it's GG because I can overlay for the Melffy with a 2000 attack and swing for game. So our opponent didn't open up the best, and I think this is just kind of like a decent way to kind of get into the deck a little bit and show you guys how the deck is played. So let's take a look at some other duels here. Alrighty, so into game 2 here, we have Cyber Dragons versus our Melffy Mash deck. So our opponent opens up 2 copies of Cyber Emergency, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Machine Duplication, and 1 Cyber Rev System. Now this hand is a little nuts. Normally I would hold my Ash, not for the Cyber Emergency, but for the Machine Duplication, so let's see what we do here. Have I failed myself? No, we're going first, actually. So we did the Fractar play where we send Nerdball, search Curious, Curious banish 2, summon our copy here, go into our Silver Bullet, and I'm not really sure what I'm thinking here. I can't quite remember this game too well. We do end up ashing the Cyber Emergency. I think I was trying to get cards back. This list is a little different than the one that I showed you in the beginning. Not quite sure. I think I was playing Tenki here, I think, instead of the Cyclones, and I was also playing cards like Valor Fawn and Nimblebeaver, but I wanted to show you guys, and Hopier. I think I was playing Hopier because it lets us go into, what is that card? Herald of the Arclight. I was also playing Mist Valley Apex Avian, man. This is a old list. This is more of a standard list I think you would see a lot of people currently play because you can go into the Smorgling because it's a wing beast using Kyros's effect here, and then summoning the big bird. So let's just go on and see what happens. Unfortunately, our opponent did top deck Dark Magician, so we swing, and then we use Caddy's effect on the end phase, and we let it go to our opponent. Our opponent draws, upstarts into a Nibiru. We Ash Blossom his other copy of Cyber Emergency, and unfortunately for our opponent, he just can't seem to play here. I didn't really need to trigger this here. It left me susceptible to cards like Ghost Ogre, but then we get our Fire Formation Tenki, use this effect discarding the Fractar, use Ceres' effect banishing to summon another copy of this. We go into Access Code Talker, triggering basically all of their effects. Then we go into Sandayu here to get a 5300 token. Oh, I fell right into Nibiru. How tragic. We end up having to pass our turn here because we just have no plays. Our opponent Monster Reborns our Ash, and I'm thinking about what he could do here. Unfortunately for us, he goes into Predaplant Verte, Anaconda, and then going into Dragoon of Red Eyes. Red Eyes pops us. Thankfully, we don't get the burn because the token doesn't go to grave, and we get poked for 3,500. Cool. Normal summon Valor Fawn, discard, he negates, this goes to grave, and then we Monster Reborn Arcurus. Arcurus' effect will trigger, banishing 4. Then we summon Omen. Omen non-target banishes the Red Eyes, and then we punch over his Anaconda, and then 12 direct for exact game. Now, I don't think I played extremely well in this. I don't like this build, which is why I've changed it to what it is now. This lacked the Dogmatica cards, but it was an interesting list to play at the time, especially to kind of get a feel for the deck. So I was rolling through the deck there. You can see the monster lineup that I play. I'm playing a few more starters in the form of Nimblebeaver and Valor Fawn. Valor Fawn lets you discard a card, target one beast monster in your graveyard, all for cost. Special summon it, so that is another way to trigger Kalantosa in grave, which is why I was playing it. But yeah, just take a peek at this list as well. If you don't have the Dogmatica cards or don't want to put money down on them, just doing like a pure Tri-Brigade Melffy deck isn't too terrible. So I will see you in Game 2. Alrighty, Game 2 against Cyber Dragons here. Our opponent opened up triple tactical talents, man. A little bit of a tongue twister when you've been talking all day. Cyber Rev System, Cyber Emergency, Jizakir the Star Destroying Kaiju, and Cyber Dragon Hurts. A incredibly good hand, especially compared to his last one. We open Zoo King Alpha, Rescue Cat, Called by the Grave, Infinite Impermanence, and an Ash Blossom. 2 hand traps, a starter, and a big beat stick with hand trap protection. What more could you ask for? Let's see how this game pans out. Looks like our opponent is on the play. We Ash his Cyber Emergency. He triple tactical talents for 2 cards. Rips the core. Core gets met by Infinite Impermanence. Our opponent then links off into Almirage, uses Cyber Rev System to summon the core, goes into Verte Anaconda, which we saw this coming, and then goes into his Red Eyes of Dark Dragoon and passes. Unfortunately for him, I have the answer to it. Special summon Zoo King Alpha and just enter the battle phase. That directly outs a Red Eyes of Dark Dragoon because they're both at 3k, and this summon does not start a chain, and you just crash right into it. So, main phase 2, we normal summon Rescue Cat effect bringing out Kalantosa and Puppy. We go into our own Verte Anaconda because, surprise, surprise, I was playing the Red Eyes package as well. We get out Red Eyes of Dark Dragoon here, and unfortunately, we get slapped by the Kaiju. Our opponent summons Hurts, uses Predaplant Anaconda's effect to, oh, look at this. His deck actually has utility outside of just using this to make Dragoon. He can also send Overload Fusion to make his copy of Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. Now, Rampage Dragon would attempt to pop, and then he could also send cards from his deck to the graveyard to gain 2 more attacks. Very interesting. So our opponent banishes I banish Red Eyes of Dragoon because he's just going to pop this anyway. No other good targets in the graveyard. Our opponent just doesn't really do anything outside of that play. I feel like he still could have sent cards to the graveyard using the Fusion's effect. He could have sent hers and Core. Hers effect would trigger adding Core back from graveyard to hand, and then he would have had a good normal summon follow-up, but maybe he's new to the deck, or maybe he just didn't think of that at the time. So, he passes to us and we rip the Ash. Then we swing over his Chimera Tech so we can't do any more shenanigans. Hope that he doesn't have another Fusion. Then he just tribute sets the driver. Now, why would you disrespect me like this? I don't understand. Why would you just do this to me? It's terrible. You're just setting me up to kill my own mascot. It's terrible. I'm so upset. Unfortunately for us, we top deck a Zoo King Alpha and really can't do much about it. We beat over the driver, and then he summons Almirage because the normal summon monster was destroyed. He activates Foolish Burial. I Ash Blossom because I know what this deck does. He then goes into Lambda, I guess trying to bait me into not activating effects in case he had a PSY-Frame Gamma in hand, but yeah, I don't really need to. I can just swing for game. Alright guys, here it is, the last game of the night, at least for me. I'm sure you guys will still be on this video long after I've gone to bed. So, looking at our opponent's hand, he has Field Barrier, Potted Duality, Silent Wobby, Planet Pathfinder, and Left Arm Offering. We're playing against Burn. I hate this deck. Zero player interaction whatsoever. Burn players are always the cockiest players. They think they're, you know, hilarious, making it to where you just can't play. They feed off the salt of their opponent, and I just cannot stand it. Luckily for us, we are on the newer version of the deck that main decks Cosmic Cyclone, which outs the Field Barrier, outs the Mystic Mine, so let's see how this game goes for us. We open up 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 copy of Hide and Seek, which kind of sucks because you generally want to search this card, but our saving grace is our Rescue Cat, and then the Nibiru in our hand. So we lead off with the Rescue Cat. Rescue Cat summons Catty and Puppy. We overlay for our copy of Melffy of the Forest, and then we search another copy of Puppy. We set 2 Cosmic Cyclones. Puppy on the end phase will special itself, and our opponent top decks the Pot of Extravagance. Come on! Banishing 6 cards from his extra to rip the final countdown. Insane. He uses Duality here, gets his copy of Demise of the Land, normal summons Planet Pathfinder. I don't want to deal with more field spells right off the bat than I can handle. I want to make him play at my pace, so I use Puppy's effect here to summon Kalantosa. Kalantosa will pop our Planet Pathfinder, and then our opponent chains Demise of the Land. Big surprise. He gets his Mystic Mine out anyway, uses Field Barrier, activates God to the Skull Oracle to do this to my deck, basically just looking at the top 3 and placing them in any order he wants to. And on the end phase, I chain Cosmic Cyclone to the field spell. Now, the best part about this is, once this is gone, Field Barrier prevents him from activating a new field spell card. This stays on the field, this is gone, he can no longer activate any of his Mystic Mines, so it basically makes his dead deck in the water, and what does our opponent do? He scoops. This is just the revenge I've been waiting for. I've played against this deck too frequently on Dueling Book and on EDO Pro. This is just my way of giving them the middle finger, telling them to fuck off. I do not want to see this deck anymore. Do not take this deck. It's not fun to play against. You know, whether it's in casual or in competitive, you're just going to alienate yourself. You're going to ruin friendships. That is what this deck does. It's like playing fucking Monopoly with your friends. It's just a good way to ruin good relationships. So, now that we're at the end of the video, I would like to take some time to thank you all for continuing to watch, for continuing to comment on my videos, and continuing to like them. If you would please ring the notification bell and do all the things I just talked about to improve my viewer engagement. And remember, please subscribe to this video. If we get to 100 subs by the end of the year, I will be doing a Starlight giveaway. I will be giving away 1 random Starlight from my collection to one of my subscribers that make themselves public so I can see them. I'll be making a video at the end of the month about this if we finally get to 100 subscribers. So yeah, keep working towards that goal, guys, and I will see you next time.